friends and listeners, you have another episode, brand new episode of Watch Skip Plus. We want to be your go-to source for insightful and pop-cultured movie reviews. If you are joining us and you haven't seen the tag, this is the spoilered episode of Damien McCarthy's 2026 supernatural horror film Hokum, starring Adam Scott and a cameo by Austin Amiello. But if you haven't heard our spoiler-free episode, go ahead and check that in our description. We'll have a link for that, and then you can come back and hear us spoil the shizzazz out of it, which is what we're going to do right now. So Hokum, basically a haunted hotel story in some ways, but it definitely talks about trauma and guilt over loss. And then I also have a theory about how all of these characters are kind of connected with regards to either a death or a specter that is haunting them. Just to set it up, Adam Scott is an author, and he is trying to finish a trilogy, the Conquistador trilogy. And so when the movie opens, we see this character who kind of looks like Don Quixote. He's, in a desert, and he's trying to search for what looks like treasure. He finds the one spot, which is like this circle. I love how they did this, how he's drinking while he's typing. And then the circle that the character finds in the desert looks like the stain from the cup on his table, which I thought was pretty cool because this will be relevant later. He finds this spot, and in order to progress to the next level, he has to break the bottle and see what other scroll is in there, but he can't break it. And so then he decides to break it over the head of a young boy who has been his assistant. And it's sort of like, oh my God. And then this cuts in between him writing in a very dark condo, and there appears to be a ghost that appears in his stairway. What did you think of this opening?
I think McCarthy's making fun of himself by giving such a ridiculous answer for the question of how to break a fucking bottle. Why is the only option to bust it over a kid's head?
Your boot. You can break it. You can elbow it. You can try to find
knee.
something in the desert. Something.
Oh my gosh, there's anything other. And his movies are full of characters making decisions where you're like,
rancid fucking decisions.
What are these choices, bro? Like, there was way more options. At first, I'm like, why is this dude digging in the sand? And I'm like, I recognize him from Hitman. Oh, I know this guy. Cool. Yeah. Wow, this is a big budget. And Damien, why are we spending 3 minutes of dude digging in the freaking sand, homie? And then eventually when you figure it out, and then it cuts to Adam Scott's glib character like, this is really gonna punch
I'm gonna kill this fucking kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get 3 minutes more of staring into the dark. What's happening? Is somebody watching me? And then there's a ghost, right? So McCarthy's up to his own tricks.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely has particular trademarks, and they run all over his other films.
Yeah, and I love you're figuring out who is this ghost that we see? It's got looks like blood coming from the side of the face, and little.
Do you want to set up who this ghost is?
Yeah, we might as well since we're in the spoilers. This movie, like we talked about, Damien does a lot of flashbacks. This is his
and
style,
flash forwards,
and flash forwards, like you said, the Tarantino style of your narrative being told all over the place chronologically. And so we get this flashback of a little boy opening up, and we see this familiar box, which we saw in the beginning when he decides to go. Of course, the plot is that he goes to the place where his parents went on their honeymoon, where he thought they were happy, because all he remembers is that his dad was abusive and hated him, and his mother was quote unquote murdered when he was a child. And so he goes to go and dump their ashes at a place where they were happy so he can move forward at that point in his life.
Yeah, they met at a big redwood in the Irish forest next to this hotel. And it's really telling. First of all, he gets to the hotel and he is just a queen cunt to everybody.
Everyone.
Right?
Biggest asshole in the world. And then as we kind of figure out why he's there, we then see this box that has a gun in it. He breaks it open. There's a gun. And of course he closes that. Well, come to find out, we get a flashback of him as a little child. Also broke into this box, which was where his father kept his gun. He was playing with it. And I love the way that this is shot. Like it's
oh my
all
God,
black,
that sequence is gorgeous.
And there's just a child playing with a gun. And then boom, he drops it. and you hear a scream, and then things drop, and this milk comes kind of pooling towards
like
beautiful
groceries
sequence.
and like apples come rolling, and the kid just has this devastated look on his face.
Yes.
And then the mother stumbles into view. She's been shot
in the
she
face.
dies.
And then, of course, that is the ghost that we see has been haunting him his whole life, is his mother. And like his father, who drank himself to death, he's doing the same thing. Very much feels like we're watching the Nick Cage movie, Leaving Las Vegas, where he has he has one purpose, and that's to come to the place where his parents were happy, to die. So he goes there to die. He wants to get rid of the visions of the ghost of his mother. And what better place to do it than to put it all to rest at the place that he felt like they were happy and had their honeymoon.
But I love how he goes to do the ashes. And this is what I think I love about McCarthy's storytelling, is that he will show us something and then later explain it, but it's not done in a cutesy kind of way. But so basically he goes and he gently sprinkles mom's ashes, but then when he gets to dad, he's like
throws it all over.
Then he just like places them together.
And you don't
like,
understand why yet. And they're like, oh,
Right.
okay, maybe that's why he's being such an asshole. Maybe dad beat his ass. And I love that you're just kind of piecing things together, that he did a much better job making this kind of piece together than he does Oddity, which I think is really quite obvious that what you're watching the entire time. It tricks people into thinking you're watching something else when you're not. And I'm not going to spoil Oddity for others because it is a great film. And you don't want to spoil any of his films.
Caveat is totally the same way.
Yes.
Like I was like, okay, come on, please reveal the secrets, because I just don't. I hate watching this.
It's EC
Caveat
Comics,
was
bro.
not entirely successful. I have a problem with Caveat. I mean, it's okay, but my issue with Caveat is that this film is just that film on a bigger scale and with more characters, but it treads the same kind of ground, right?
Kind of, sort of. Yes. Again, we're following the lead, who is troubled, and in this case, we find out that he killed his mother. I'm not going to spoil Caveat either. You want to give that a watch to see what happens there, because while the characters are very similar and the way that the stories are told are similar, it's just like reading EC Comics. It's going to be a revenge murder mystery plot line, and you're just going to see and dive into each week. And there's going to be some kind of grotesque monster or horrific thing that comes back in the end to kill them. And that's kind of what you get with every one of these movies. Yeah. So if you've read EC Comics, you know what you're getting. The bad guys get what they deserve, which was great. Just like we have this wooden thing in Oddity that is just sitting there. Well, we have this story
the Golem?
Yes,
Christ,
the Golem.
That thing is frightening.
Well, then we have these little wooden children and like wooden stuff everywhere, and a story about a witch who has claimed all these children, and she's been locked up in the honeymoon suite in this hotel, and that is the kind of hokum that's kind of in the background. All of his films are about real people where there are some kind of mysterious folk tale, horror, supernatural stuff going on behind the veil, as we will say. In this, they show that basically we find this guy who, again, that's a trope. We find some long-haired hippie that's a homeless person that we think is a bad guy. Well, not really
homeless. We discover
he's been living in his van by the river, which basically means he's homeless. But yes, we find out that he is living homeless because he stayed there, and that was where his wife asked him basically to kill her because she had some kind of illness.
But the police want him because they think that he has murdered her. And it's sort of like, wait a minute, he's hiding in the forest in a big red van, and y'all can't find him.
And he's just foraging around getting high as fuck on mushrooms.
Because he puts, what he does is he takes mushrooms, psilocybin, and he puts it in milk. And we have this conversation where, so this is why it reminded me of The Shining. Jerry is our entree into the fact that like there is a supernatural world kind of existing, and that when we take the psilocybin and we hallucinate, it opens our minds up so that we can see specters, we can see ghosts, right? Which
like
kind of
like you said, Insidious. It's like being able to go into that other realm and see the ghosts that are all around us and the spirits that are on.
Yeah, which kind of begs the question, and this is what I think is interesting, and I have a theory, is that, you know, the main characters of the story have all been touched by a death or haunted by a death or a ghost, right? And then this film, basically, there are two characters that meet their demise, and then there are two characters that sort of have a resolution. And it's interesting who those two characters are, but we'll get to that. So Adam Scott goes to the hotel. There is a man in a wheelchair who it turns out is the actual owner, but he is telling the kids of this Irish folklore about a witch, kind of like Hansel and Gretel, who traps the kids. And we're seeing all these like creepy miniatures and these faces and these close-ups. It's a really well done sequence. I'm glad that they didn't.
She chains them up, and the little figurines are hanging by chains, so it's like cool and creepy.
And then she like takes them somewhere and then takes a piece of them. And then they're like tortured forever or whatever. I'm glad that they didn't animate it and that it's really just the man's voice and then these shots of like the scary diorama that he's put together.
Figurines. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
He loves wooden figurines.
He really does. He's all about that like token stuff, you know? So there's that whole legend there, and it's tied to the fact that there's this honeymoon suite that's locked up, right? Nobody goes in it. It's been locked up forever or whatever. And so Adam Scott does what he needs to do, and he actually hangs himself, which was a shock to me. I was like, I didn't know that they were going to go there, right?
Yeah.
But before they go there, he's talking with this bellhop who works there, and the bellhop is like, "Hey, will you take a look at my manuscript?" And he's like, "Fuck no, you're an idiot. Get the fuck out of here," or whatever. And he treats him horribly. This is going to come back later. But then he makes friends with this woman who also works in the hotel, who I love. She's like, "Sir, are you lost?" And he's like, fuck, whatever. And she goes, "Well, with that attitude, you can stay lost," and walks away. I was like, damn, is that Irish hospitality? Because that's kind of cool, right? But they make friends, and then she talks about how she always wanted to go up there or whatever. Now, she is the woman who saves him. They find him, they cut him down, they bring him to the hospital, and when he wakes up, I think a week or two later, he goes back. The hotel is now closed, out of season, and they're shutting down, kind of like The Outlook and The Shining.
And The Shining, yep.
And he goes back, and we come to find out that she is missing. And the police, who, by the way, are friends with the owner and the people that work at the hotel, so they wink, wink, look the other way when things happen. They're sort of like, well, we think Jerry killed her, and that's that, right? So Adam is sort of being forced to leave by, his name is Malcolm. He's the sort of desk clerk. And then there's
like
also
the hotel manager is what he is.
Yeah, the manager, the desk clerk, all of that. He sort of runs he's like a facilities manager. But then there's also the owner in the wheelchair, his stepson, Fergus or whatever, who's basically like the muscle, you know? He like tells people, you know, whatever, and fixes all the stuff. So he is leaving, and then he runs into Jerry again, and Jerry starts to tell him that the honeymoon suite is haunted, but he thinks that Fiona might be up there. And so they contrive to go in there, and this is pretty much the main substance of the film, because Scott gets trapped in the honeymoon suite, and it turns out that he is seeing his mother, and it's weird how his mother is portrayed almost as this sinister specter that maybe is going to kill him. I like that McCarthy teased that maybe mom was getting revenge on him for killing him. Did you feel that? Or was I just out of left field?
Because we create our own hauntings, right? We create these things, and he feels so much guilt for it because he believes it's his fault. So he believes that he's the reason why his father is dead and the reason why his mother's dead. And he writes these books, this trilogy, which again, that's Damien, kind of giving a wink wink to this being a trilogy in itself. And this is the third film in the trilogy. And he actually has money. His first film cost £1,000. Now this one's like a $15 million film. So he feels pressure. There's a lot of wink wink meta stuff going on here. Which I did love.
Totally.
Don't you love all the meta stuff in there?
It was great. But so Scott, finds Fiona's dead body. First of all, there's a dumbwaiter in the suite, right?
First off, can we just talk about why the choice is to go back and why the police didn't give his stuff to the freaking hotel? Choices, weird
well, because
as much as I like Damien McCarthy, his writing has issues. And after rewatching all three of these films, he makes these choices that just are not logical. They're plot holy-ish. And that's one of them. Like, why would he show up? And then he shows up just at the time when they're shutting down. It all just seems way too, on the nose and contrived for sure.
But we'll talk about this towards the end, but the police look the other way because I think the owner knows the witch is actually there. So we'll get to that. But so he's in the honeymoon suite. We find out that Fiona is dead. And there is a dumbwaiter. And what I was going to say was that there was a lot of young kids or teenagers in my screening, which I thought was great. There was older people and then there were teenagers. I'm like, awesome, right? Horror for the new generation. But when they saw the dumbwaiter, I heard maybe one or two of them being like, what is that? Like, it's like they don't know what a dumbwaiter is, right? So anyway, in the dumbwaiter, he finds Fiona's dead body. And what we come to discover, first of all, Damien McCarthy either loves Donnie Darko or he has some sort of scarred trauma around rabbits. Because in Caveat, there is this scary rabbit that is kind of like I think the rabbit responds to like supernatural things, and so it starts beating its drum when it sees that. And then in Oddity, you actually see that as one of the haunted relics in the woman's antique shop. And then here there is a sort of like haunted child's host that has buggy eyes and like a rabbit, and he's like the ghost that sort of tells him, you're a fucked up kid for killing your mom sucks. That was really nightmarish, even though it's kind of like,
I think they called him Donkey Boy. That's what he was. That's what the big ears were. He was
well,
supposed
it
to
looked
be
like a rabbit actually.
I thought so too, but yeah.
And then Fiona has a rabbit costume, so I thought maybe that's a nod to that childhood host or whatever.
Yeah, I think she was wearing that Donkey Boy costume, which I think was supposed to be like a famous, Barney for
like a kid's host
age.
or something, like Captain Kangaroo or something.
Captain Kangaroo, but with those weird, creepy big eyes. Which again, that's a McCarthyism. I don't ever want
to see that in a dark alley. I don't need to see that. That was really scary. Kudos to McCarthy for creating that. But so Fiona is dead, and what we come to find out is that her and Mal had a thing. She got pregnant, and she said she wanted to keep the baby. And Mal, who is married, he's on a short leash with the owner.
It's the owner's daughter he's married to.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he's like, he hates me already. I can't have him find out about this.
So he poisons her, which is awful. And then he stuffs her body in the honeymoon suite because he knows it's locked up and nobody goes there, right? But what he doesn't know, and this is what I think the owner knows, and they don't really go into this. This is why sometimes McCarthy's stories are weird, because he teases something with a character and it leaves you thinking like, okay, wait, is that what this is all about? And so my feeling is that when you see the owner in the beginning with the wheelchair explaining all of this to these two kids, he's doing it because he has trapped the witch in the honeymoon suite. He feeds it the kids so that the hotel has success.
There's a whole prequel there. I mean, we know we're getting another witch prequel with the weapons prequel, but there's a whole other prequel here. The cops were involved.
Has to be.
He was involved, and they all know that he is keeping that witch away from the village and away from the village's kids by trapping in, maybe once a year or whatever, feeding it kids or people. Whatever.
And those two kids in the beginning where Adam Scott is like, kids, don't talk to strangers, beat it. And then he ends up talking to Jerry, who is a stranger, and drinking his out moonshine and almost drinking his milk. I'm like, what the fuck? You suck, right? So the thing is though, I don't think, and this is what McCarthy does, when you look at Oddity and you look at Caveat, there are characters that ostensibly seem like they're this piece in the puzzle, but they're part of a larger thing going on, right? And so, you know, Mal, I don't think, knew that the witch was there. So he stashes the body in the dumbwaiter. It goes down to a basement where the witch is hiding, right? And so what we end up following is that there's this sort of like tense sort of thing where Adam Scott is stuck in the honeymoon suite. He's trying to figure out how to get out there. He realizes what Mal has done. Mal realizes what he knows. And so we get this kind of Wes Craven, like up and down and chasing each other. It leads to a couple deaths, which is kind of freaky. And so as we've been building up this Irish folklore stuff, we learn that you can make a protective circle from witches by drawing it in chalk. And so this witch actually resurfaces in a really freaky, scary, tense sequence. But he protects himself by drawing the chalk, right? And then towards the end, as they're chasing each other, Mal's trying to kill him, Scott goes back into the basement and he draws that protective circle in order to do what? Do you want to let the friends and listeners know?
So he draws the protective circle, he hides in the circle, and has Mal basically wandering around knowing the witch is going to come out because he'd almost killed her once, or killed his character once. So he hides in the circle while she comes up. And I love when the witch comes to him and just like slaps her hands down. All of a sudden he lifts his hands up and he's chained.
And he's
like,
got the chains just like the kids. Yeah, crazy.
And then he actually does end up chaining Adam Scott too. And so he's like, even though I'm in this, hopefully she doesn't get me, but right before she's about to be getting, he gets saved. I did hear that he had a version where he did die and that there was some reshoots. Whether or not that's true.
Really?
Yeah, I did hear there was some reshoots there. I did like that we got enough of this character to feel like he deserved. In the end, I felt like he deserved to find his peace.
With his mother.
For me personally, my mother's half-brother killed one of her other half-brothers when he was a child, and it ended up leading him down a path of food and alcohol that killed him at a young age with a heart attack.
So
it's like stuff like that, it happens in these kind of stories, like the people who do accidentally, kill with guns, it haunts them for life. And for him to be able to move forward because he was able to solve a mystery and to do something good in his life for once, I thought that was an awesome, again, it's like the Ring.
Redemptive arc.
Yes, it's like Ring. It's like that Kevin Bacon something echoes, Stir of Echoes. That
Stir
kind
of
of
Echoes,
where,
David Cap, yeah.
Yes, where you're being led. A troubled character is finding redemption by helping solve a mystery and at the same time coming to peace with themselves. So again, these are all things that we've seen before.
It's interesting that you talked about the fact that there might have been a different ending to this, because what I had said in the spoiler-free review was that so much is in here that when the ending we got happens, it doesn't feel as powerful. So the whole time, Mom is showing up as this evil specter. We think she's going to kill him. And we know that when you make the circle of the chalk, that it protects you from evil spirits, from witches, right? So at the end, his mom steps into the circle. And so what we learn is that she's not an evil demon. She says to him, she whispers to him, I know it was an accident. And she actually, in a way, frees him, because then he gets loose from the chains and then he leaves. But the problem is when you make her that menacing specter and then suddenly she's able to enter the circle, I think viewers that aren't necessarily looking out for that are going to see that.
Well,
And
she's
so
been protecting him his whole life. And
yes,
the reason why Fiona felt something was wrong was because she was led to see that those things were there. And again, I think Mom's ghost was there. She in the entire time has been there to protect him, knowing that he's going to be haunted by these memories. And even though in his head, he sees his mother as a haunting, specter, in reality, she's not. And then that hug at the end where he feels his mother, and I lost my mother at a young age due to gun violence as well, an accidental shooting from
I'm sorry.
From a situation. So again, that ending to me really emotionally worked. It hit me hard in the guts, and I got emotional. I loved this.
Definitely.
I loved that ending, and I get why you know, it would have been cool to have him just die there and be at peace. But I kind of like that he was able to move beyond that trauma. I think it worked.
And then we also get then tied up with him finishing the book, which I feel like you could have cut all of that out and it would be fine. But
yeah,
in the
book stuff.
But in the book, what he realizes is that, you know, he finally discovers none of them have to hurt themselves for this fucking bottle, right? And so the guy ends up hugging the kid and being like, I'm so sorry, I almost made you the sacrificial lamb. And so it's that redemptive arc. Scott has become a nicer person and he's found forgiveness and closure with that incident. So my theory, again, with the screenplay, the owner has trapped the witch, right? And he is affected by the death of these strangers that he feeds to the witch, which makes the hotel successful. So that's a beneficial way of his ghost. Adam Scott, we've talked about his redemptive arc. Mal is haunted by the death of Fiona, not the death, but his murder of Fiona. And then he meets his demise because he gets fed to the witch, which I was so happy. I was like, yes, die, motherfucker. And then Jerry is haunted by the death of his wife. Like, he allowed her to move on in a mercy killing. But he wasn't able to live then his own life because of the legal implications of that. But he goes back to save Adam Scott, because he wanted to he knew that Adam Scott was innocent and he unfortunately dies based on that, right? But the kicker of all of this, and this is why, again, the ending could have had a little more impact if he had not given so much to the audience. But what we come to find out is that the bellboy who he was mean to spiked the whiskey flask with the psilocybin. But that allowed Adam Scott to then open his mind and see all of the ghosts and see the ghost of his mother so that he could have that closure.
Yep.
And so again, that little thread of how right now the move in science is that we can take these drugs like K or what have you, and then we can go deeper into our trauma and see it and make peace with it and have that clarity. That's an interesting bent. I don't know if they have that over in Ireland, but you know, it's interesting that he's sort of toned in on that. I love this. I don't mind when an auteur visits themes and ideas that are strong that he can get a good story out of. But this one may be a little too close to caveat for my comfort. But I guess if you're looking at this as a trilogy, it makes a good bookend, right?
Yeah, and it definitely is. Now, I have this list after having watched all of these. Are you ready for this?
Okay, so these are director trademarks of Damien McCarthy, threads that are common between these three films. Check them out, folks.
I just wrote these down really quickly while I was right after I got done watching the film. So all three of these are slow paced. They all are about internal ghosts that are actually external ghosts. Yes. Dread over jump scares. Long sections with no dialogue and shadowy figures. Flawed male leads. Creepy animals with big ears, crossbows.
Oh my God!
Crossbows.
Yes, he fucking loves a crossbow.
Lots of crossbows in the head, chalk circles for being used in rituals. There was a circle in the back of the oddity's head that had these little things for ritual.
And then the mother in Caveat is drawing the circle and making the nose bleed. Yeah.
Yep. We've got chained men, lots of men getting chained up.
For their infidelity or their trespasses.
Yep. I compared the clock with the golfer to the rabbit with the drums.
Absolutely.
Being how they communicate, the spirits communicating with little trinkets or oddities.
I love it. I love what you've done there.
Dead female bodies in creepy static poses hidden in basements.
In states of decomposition. Absolutely. Yep. Oh my God.
Dead mother trauma. Creepy holes in walls. Don't stick your hands in holes in walls, y'all.
People, why do we do this? Did you not see Creepshow with the crate? Don't put your hands in holes.
And last but not least, don't trust the men that are in charge. They're always up to no good.
Male betrayal, whether that's infidelity or even, stepping on your other subordinates to get what you need.
Or the uncle in in Caveat versus,
Yep.
yeah. Again, those are his little touchstones. So when you go back and you watch all three of these films together, you'll see all of those touchstones. And I think that it's a nice little shared universe, and all three films are really kind of awesome. I think they should release them as a trilogy, like Kino Lorber or whomever should just release these into a nice little trilogy booklet. I don't know what you want to call them, the McCarthy folklore horror.
Yes,
mysteries,
the Irish folklore trilogy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if you did a marathon, though, don't you think some people would fall asleep?
I did.
Sorry.
No, I did. I rewatched all of them, like boom, boom, boom. And I did fall asleep during Artie because I rewatched it way too late. But I did finish it this morning. And yes, those are all the highlights on the things that I noticed, the touchstones that are in all of his films, all three of them. So yeah, interesting.
But things. I appreciate that. I like when a director can weave it. I think Caveat and this one are a little too similar, but again, I would love to see McCarthy take on a Faces of Death or do more of this. I think it'd be great.
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely a watch, not entirely successful, but it's a watch. And just like Mother Mary, I think the more you think about the film afterwards, the more it kind of grows on you.
Yeah. That's what happened with Oddity after I left the theater. And I mean, if we're going to compare Lee Cronin to Damien McCarthy, because why not? Because they're both Irish horror filmmakers.
Sure.
I prefer McCarthy. I think I like what he does.
Funny you mentioned that.
More.
I actually prefer McCarthy to Cronin, although obviously Cronin is the Stephen King, Steven Spielberg version of Irish filmmaking, and McCarthy is more the Tarantino or the Darren Aronofsky, right?
You got to throw some James Wan for the gore effects in there to really.
Course, yeah.
That's really what Lee Cronin is. He wants to be James Wan and just be as gory as hell and make these like. It's kind of come out now that this, of course, was an Evil Dead script that he had retroacted into The Mummy. So, yeah.
Or he was Cronin was concocting a shared universe.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But, I don't know. McCarthy, hey, maybe the two Irish hotties can get together and make an epic horror film together.
Yeah, it's one of the, let's do like a VHS where they each do like an Irish folklore short, and
tie them together through a segment directed by Adam Wingard. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Always throw in Adam Wingard. It wouldn't be a Watch Skip Plus episode if we don't throw in a Wingard wink.
Oh my God, I love you, Adam Wingard. Please marry me and cut your beard and your hair, please, because you look hotter without it, but you still look hot with it. But yeah. All right. So watches for both of us. Check out Hokum, folks. Dust Bunny landed on HBO Max. Please also check that out. All right, so thus adjourns our spoilered review of Hokum. Please definitely check it out. Check out the rest of our episodes as well. Spread the word. Tell lots of people. Like, subscribe, follow, comment. Make the comments. Jared, Lou, Tyler, we love your comments. We love your posts and stuff. The two Johns, we love that. But just spread the word. Keep coming back. We want to keep doing this because we love this. We really do love this. And we do the pod roll in the other episode. Mike, parting thoughts.
Hey, just get out there, get to the theaters. Like I said, live. Nothing better than getting out in the summer with a bunch of people and just appreciate art live.
Yes, so beautiful out. And as always, folks, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is, and we will see you next week when we review... I'm not sure. Are we taking a break next week? Did we say that? Or
You want to take a break every week.
I want to take a break because work is getting bad.
I know.
But we'll figure it out. We'll figure something out for next week. If not, maybe a small break, folks. But we love you. We'll see you on the other side. Bye.
Bye.